Some guys, they find it awkward to talk about those things. Then why are you here? Didn't you want to get married?
Today's conversation is going to be about, can a woman do it all? We're going to divide up the conversation into two parts. So this first part, I want to specifically focus on pre-marriage, the advice that you have from your own experiences, regrets perhaps. And then once we go into the second part, we'll talk about marriage life. So thank you for joining me today, Shaima.
Thank you for having me, Zahra. I'm really happy to be part of this discussion.
I want to jump right into the university life. A lot of times women are now thinking about going to post-secondary, and it can be a really difficult decision to make as to what career you want to choose. For anyone who is currently in that position, what would you advise for them to do?
I would say think of the bigger picture, especially as a woman. You need to think, what do you want out of life? One day you're gonna have a family. One day you're gonna have children. There might be things you love to do. There might be some subjects you love. You enjoy studying. At the same time, I would be like, okay, Shaima, you love these topics. You love science. Think of the careers, the actual jobs you're going to be doing, and incorporate that into your life as a married woman with kids. Can you do that? Can you manage that? Can you manage your time?
I feel like some people who might be watching this might say, well, not every woman is going to get married. And why should I, in that place, be thinking about someone else potentially and be, taking that into account when it might not be in the cards for me? So do you think it's still important for everyone to consider the possibility of a family life?
Yeah, that's a very good point. Have it in the back of your head as you're making those big decisions in your life. I had at the back of my head, I wanted to get married. At 17, I was like, I want to get married. Having proposals here and there has allowed me to kind of, get to know different people and also gauge what I didn't want in my life. And that's, I think, is a good experience. Don't just accept whoever comes, first knock on your door. I don't say every girl has to get married. I think every woman and their choices are amazing. They want to keep studying, keep pursuing their career, get married, settle down, have kids, and not work at all. Proud of every woman out there.
One of the things I struggled with, because I was the first in my family, the eldest, to go into university, I was largely unaware of a lot of things. And one of my personal regrets is not having had more work experience. In terms of giving advice or perhaps regrets on things that you think you missed out on during your undergraduate or even your master's degree, do you have any that you'd like to share?
Well, co-op is certainly a good thing to do. I would certainly encourage any student who's doing their bachelor's to, experience the co-op. I personally have not done the co-op, but I was working. So I was working 3 jobs and full-time courses during university. But co-op is kind of different because you get a break from the studies and you just get to focus on your work. So you get to fully experience the work life, right? Co-op gives you a chance to connect with different industries you may not have had a chance to connect with. It gives you that opportunity to go beyond the scope of just, maybe what I went through. I was also part of so many different clubs in the university. I wish I had connected more with different kinds of people, made more friends. At the same time, it's not something I totally regret because I'm happy with where it has gotten me. I think taking it day by day and making my decisions based on my, my current situation, that's what allowed me to, keep moving forward and, reevaluate every step of the way.
When you are in that position entering university, there's already so many options and so many things you're trying to decide. And one of the struggles that I've had and one of the struggles that I consistently hear is I don't know how to choose which major is the one I want to do. I don't know how to choose what I wish to pursue in life. So how can someone make a decision on what they want to do?
Talk to people. Go and, if you think you want a career in nursing or a career in teaching, go talk to nurses and teachers. Go, not just talk to them, you have a conversation, have an interview with them.
Information interview.
Yeah. Go out with them, maybe tell them I want to, just come by and see how you do your job. There's so many resources out there that we can explore and see, okay, yeah, this may work for me. but also talk about the difficult things, like how much money are you making? Is this good? How are you balancing your life? Especially as a woman, right? Again, it's hard. But these conversations for a 17-year-old are hard to, get at.
Once you hit university or college, you realize there are so many options that you never heard about. As you said, just take it gradually and just know that what you're selecting now can be the best fit for now. And then also be mindful that you can adapt it to other stuff hopefully later. Society puts so much pressure, especially a Muslim woman, because now, you want to be in a relationship, you want to be married for some, and for some it's really difficult based on where you are. You maybe want to get married at a certain age, and it doesn't happen that way. What fully prepared you to be married?
I know that at the age of 17, when I said, okay, maybe I want to get married, I don't think I was ready. Being honest with yourself about your weaknesses, your faults. What do you think you want to improve? Be honest with yourself about yourself.
How do you come about finding more about yourself and realizing where your interests are, where your weaknesses, what are things that you like and dislike? How does a person come to find those things out?
I would say exposing yourself to the environments that you want to be exposed to allows you to know yourself and where you want to be. I think it's a process. I'm still learning about myself to this day, right? And I think I'm changing as I grow older and older with all the experiences that come about. I can't say that, I fully know myself before getting married. No, there's no such thing. You know what you want. I'm talking for myself. I don't know what other girls want, right? But I know that I wanted this. I wanted someone who would be not shy, just engage in a conversation with me and just talk and share your day-to-day thoughts. These are the things that I was looking for, right? Knowing what you want and what you don't want will help you make that decision if you're talking about marriage. But if you're talking about career, it's something that I grow. Every day I'm always learning. Still at in my late 20s right now, still learning, still taking courses, thinking of changing careers sometimes, just taking one day at a time, right?
I think for me a lot of it was reflecting also. Sitting down actually saying, well, this just happened. Why did I feel this way? For you to work on yourself, it takes a lot. It's not just handed to you. When it comes to communication, the number one piece of advice for any successful relationship of any sorts is communication is key. How do you identify someone's communication style, and how do you find how to properly communicate with different people? Because everyone has a different type.
Communication is key to every relationship. Yes, sometimes when you meet someone for the first time, and talking from experience, sometimes the other person is shy. When they engage with you on a one-on-one basis, they will have to talk to you. You get to see how they interact with you, how they talk with you. Are they comfortable?
Can they hold a conversation?
Can they hold a conversation? Is it going anywhere? Am I going to be the one who's trying to put some words in or some questions, or are they going to initiate? People in general come from different backgrounds, right? And the way they were raised, the way they are, their personality, they may communicate differently. That's the biggest thing to remember. And when you were talking about communicating to your partner, you have to, let them know what you're thinking. Don't just expect them to, just read your mind, especially at the beginning of, getting to know each other, beginning of your marriage. It's very important because communication is key. But okay, you say, how do you communicate? Well, you have to talk, you have to share your feelings, and you have to share those fears that you have about communication. If you don't, then do you really want to spend the rest of your life with that person? And you need to know whether you need to have a chance to actually have that scenario with your partner. To actually, for me, for example, it was very important to meet my partner and actually be able to have a one-on-one conversation, go out, talk, get to know the other person. And that shows the flow. That shows, okay, he listens to me when I'm talking. He's not interrupting me. He's respectful. When I'm talking to him, he doesn't judge me. There's so many things that can go on. Some people these days are on their phones, that's really annoying. And sometimes, okay, they're busy, they have a career, okay, but where's that limit? I would say communication styles can be completely different. One person can be talkative, the other person can be shy. Negative for me when I was getting to know those people, like they were not talking. I had to push the information out, and I didn't like that, because I don't want to be like, when I get married, when I have a partner, I don't want to constantly, ask you for something. I want you to also engage in that conversation with me. These cues, like if you're in the process of trying to get to know someone for the purpose of marriage, then know what you want, know how you want your interaction to be with the partner, because I don't think that will change when you get married. I think also one big thing is how they communicate with their family. See how they interact with their friends, how they communicate with their friends. Are they respectful, always fooling around? Because that's the type of person they're going to be when they're around you one day when you get married. So know that, and keep that in mind. Communication is key. It could break a relationship too, because you need to understand that communication is very important in the relationship, in the growth of that relationship. If you can't communicate with your partner about, your worries, your fears, how do you expect that to grow? Because you come from two different backgrounds. If you don't communicate, I don't see it going anywhere. Right?
You touched on, you called them cues. I call them red flags.
Yeah.
Little things. Sometimes when you're talking to someone or getting to know someone, you may pick up on certain things, but if you're really young and this is your first experience talking to someone, you may not acknowledge them as red flags. Or in your mind, some people, they'll change after marriage. Or right now it's still early in the relationship, it's not a big deal. One of the things I always advise on anyone who comes to me, pick up on these red flags. Anything that makes you uncomfortable, anything where you don't see eye to eye, and just make a note of that. And as you said, communicate that with them. What are some red flags that you think young women should be aware of? There's a whole list.
Whole list. First thing is know what you want, and my likes and my dislikes in marriage, and what was important and what was okay to let go, right? It's hard to think of them unless you've been through some experience.
This is based on your personal experience, so we're not bashing anyone. Everyone has their pros and cons, if we can put it that way.
So for me, I wanted someone who's independent. I'm right now giving you a list of what I wanted. So independent in the sense that it doesn't necessarily have to have like a career or a job right now, but a red flag was when a guy doesn't know what he wants, because I didn't want to just babysit the guy. And you see that sometimes in relationships, even for women, they don't know what they want. For me, that was a red flag. Not in the sense like you don't have to have a career per se, but you are in a path. You know where you're headed. You have some ideas of where you want to be in the future. Yes, I acknowledge that may change because, life. One of them was being too close, like being a mama boy. I don't know if that's what they call it. Mama's boy.
We can say that.
Like a mama's boy in the sense that I wanted a guy who loves his family, respected his family, but I wanted someone who picked me for me. He's the one choosing me, not the mom scavenging for brides and, picking. For me, I automatically said no to anyone who just came from his mom. A red flag is when the guy doesn't express the stages of the relationship. For example, you're trying to get to know the person and you're getting to know the family. The guy may seem like he's not ready for marriage. That's a big red flag. Another red flag is when, he can't make a decision unless he keeps consulting the parents. That's another red flag, because that totally means he's not ready for marriage, because he has not thought about those big things in marriage, right? He hasn't thought about how your life is going to be like. For me, with my husband, I remember when we were getting to know each other, I asked all the difficult questions, and we had a long conversation about serious issues, serious topics that I never thought we'd dive into that topic. But I think at that stage, I knew what I didn't want and I knew what I wanted. So how easy that conversation went, was a plus, and no red flags, right? It made me realize at that point that in the past, when I was trying to get to know some people, I let some things go that were supposed to be red flags, right? So I want to say to every girl out there who is thinking about getting married is a huge deal. And, you know, unfortunately out there are some people who, you know, end up in a divorce. And if you have to go through that to, you know, end your marriage that is not healthy, then go for it, because it's not healthy. But at the same time, let's think about how we can avoid that in the first place. And sometimes when we're so young and we're forced into making a decision, or let's say you make a decision because you're rushing, you know, you're excited to get married, those little things that bug you, they may become big things. So talk about them. And don't be shy to talk about them with the person you're getting to know. Be honest about how you're feeling or some things you don't like about the other person, because that person is still also trying to get to know you and evaluate you. And you don't know where he's coming from, where that person is coming from. So give them a chance to correct that. Don't just like reject them like right on, but give them a chance. And if you see like it's not going anywhere, then you're going to find someone. Don't just settle. Don't ever settle.
You touched on a lot of important things, and one of the things that comes from that is also, are you comfortable with that person? I felt that. Even if we are shy, a lot of times people, it might be their first experience. It just, listen to your gut feeling. I think sometimes we can't verbalize that, but listen to that. And also feeling comfortable to ask whatever you want to ask. Sometimes we don't discuss finances because we think it's premature. These are important, and I think oftentimes we are trying to get to know someone. We want to tread carefully. But I like how you said, you know, at that point when you met your now husband, you kind of you had enough experience to know, well, these are all the questions I have. How can you handle it?
Yeah, I think it's funny like that you mentioned like how I was getting to know my husband, because the first meeting, I think when we saw each other, we were volunteering. And the vibe was there from the beginning, you know. Like, I remember even calling my parents. My parents were on a trip at that time. And I just told them, like, listen, I met this guy and I think he's going to propose.
You did?
And there was nothing at that point, right? But I had this feeling, right? And sometimes you get this feeling like anywhere, but it might not end up where you think it might, right? But we actually spent time to get to know each other. We tackled all the important topics, all the points that may have been red flags. So that allowed me, because at that point I was like, I'm tired of getting hurt and I don't want, just waste my time or your time. I'm here for a serious relationship, and I hope you're here for that too. It felt good to talk to him, and the flow and comfort level was good. I was also shy. I think he was shy too at the first time we actually met and sat. But when you start talking, you actually, those emotions and the feelings you have and all the fears, they slowly start to go away when that other person is responsive and you communicate well and he's listening and all that stuff. For me, the biggest thing was to share with my partner the struggles I have in my life, and he's okay with those struggles that I have. The things I want to improve, like, are you okay with those things that I'm willing to improve on, or you think that's a red flag? Like knowing also like what may be a red flag for them, just put it out there, lay it out there. And some guys say they don't want that, don't want to deal with that, right? And again, you mentioned like finances, right? So we did talk about those things because that's an important topic, to know where they're at in their job hunt, in their career hunt, in their studies. Are they dependent on mom or dad? It doesn't necessarily mean it's a deal breaker, whatever their answer is, but it allows you to plan for the future, because you know where you stand. Like, at that point when you're trying to get married, what stage you're at. Do you have a job? Do you have a career? Are you going to be the main financial support system, or share that? Talk about those things. Talk about those topics. I know they're difficult to tackle, but it's important, because these days you don't know. Does your husband want you to work 100%, or do you sit at home and do nothing, or raise the kids? What is your plan? What is your partner okay with? What are you okay with? And you agree on that. Every couple should agree on what they want to do. That may change, but be okay with that change. Like, talk about the fact that this may change. I may want this in the future. I'm working now, but if I have kids, I want to do this. Talk about those things. Some guys, they find it awkward to talk about those things. Then why are you here? Didn't you want to get married? These are the hard topics. Talk about it.
You said something about also putting out there your own concerns, but also the things that you want to improve on. For me, that says you are being vulnerable because you're putting that out about you. And I think it takes a lot of strength to do that, especially when you're in the phase of getting to know someone. How do you even come to discover what someone's religious level is to know if they're compatible with your religious level?
Yeah, that's a very important topic because religion is big on our priority list, right? Gauging that comes from looking at how they are with their interactions, right? Where do they hang out? Do they go to the masjid? Is it important for them? Do they get their prayers in time, right? But how do you know that? Like when you're just going out to see them during 2 hours. For me, I took my time in getting to know my husband. We went to masjid together. So just having my partner see that as an important thing, especially because I was a student back then, like meeting me during the prayer room, because we're going to do Maghrib prayers, that tells me a lot, right? That tells me that prayer is a big thing on his list, right? Or for example, when you're getting to know him outside for coffee or something, when it comes to prayer time, I need to go get my prayers in. These small hints, you may have the opportunity to see them. If not, and if they're important to you, then I would say maybe talk about them, maybe allow those opportunities to come about in that relationship as it's building up. Because if it's important for you, then it should be big on your list. You shouldn't just accept the other person just because he's Muslim by name. I mean, I'm not judging anyone out there, right? But I really cared about my partner because that's the person I'm going to spend the rest of my life with. I'm going to build a family with. We talked about, I don't remember if we talked too much about this, but we talked about, hijab and why I'm wearing the hijab. It's important to talk about that, I know my weaknesses when it comes to religion. I never went to Islamic school. So I know that, and I tell him because he, mashallah, is much more knowledgeable than me in Islam and religion. And I know that about myself, and I told him that. And I think as the relationship has grown over time, we keep, calling each other out on certain things when it comes to religion because we know we discussed about this way before, and we call each other out when we see, okay, did you pray? I'm not the pray police, sorry, but we talk about those things, right? We sometimes like to pray together. These things were important for me, and I really wanted him to also be someone who's not judgmental about other people's religion. I wanted him to be okay with the way I'm wearing the hijab. Not necessarily the style or all that, but, are you okay with the way I'm wearing it? Some men might want, someone to be more modest, someone to not wear the hijab. So are you okay with the way I am? And having that conversation, I know may be weird or tough, but I think it's important because you don't want to be the person who sacrifices your own beliefs and religion when you get into a marriage. There are so many levels of, religion. Know where you're at and be honest with yourself and with your partner because, you were your person when you were in your family and he was his person when he was with his family, with his friends. He may have a different view of like how his life wants to be. Talk about it. You never know. You may be shocked. You don't want to get in shock when you get into that relationship. Their akhlaq, these things, right? A religion is not only about hijab. Religion is not only about prayer. Religion is about how they interact with people, the words they use, their anger, how they, anger, everyone has anger. I have anger, right? How we control that, and are we working on our issues? Are we working on ourselves? Yeah.
One of the things that I take from that is really speak your expectations.
Yeah.
Because a lot of us, as you said, within our own family homes, we are raised a certain type of way. We're even just how we are as humans. We all have different personality traits and different expectations. So it's really important to communicate. Be very open and honest. Don't just say something to please the other person because you're going to get married and that person will hold you accountable.
Again, you mentioned like communication. Communication is huge in a relationship because talking about these things is important, and some people are shy or whatnot. If you can't talk about it, just write it down in a text. Let them answer your interview question. Sometimes it's really hard to verbalize it. So message. I remember me and my husband would message each other, but not about like hard topics, but we would message some stuff and then we talk about it later. Have those conversations no matter how you have them, but have them. And just know that the way you're talking, don't be dismissive, if you don't like something. Talk about it and see if the other person is willing to accept you for who you are or for what you want to be or become or do or whatever, right? Because talking about it will allow you to actually get a glimpse of your life together.
Let's say everything runs smoothly and you met the person. You can still experience doubts because no relationship is flawless. You might still have things that come up that don't really sit as well with you or might just generally have doubts. What's your experience with that?
I think doubt is totally normal. I'm sure girls out there have experienced it, and I'm sure the guys also, right? Because you're diving into this commitment. You have all these doubts because, it's still a new person. You're leaving your safe space to this new place with a new person that you hope will provide that safe space for you. Again, you also doubt whether you're right for that person. All your strengths and weaknesses, come and you're like, is he going to accept me for me? You talked about this with him, hopefully, with all your fears and everything. You were hopefully vulnerable and you talk about these things, right? But still, doubt may exist, and I think it's totally normal. You're taking a leap of faith, right? You're taking that step, right? And just put your trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at that time. As long as it's not doubt for, the red flags that we discussed, or I'm sure there's so many out there that may be red flags for people, things that you can compromise, know that I think it's important to accept that you're also not perfect and the other person is not perfect either. Don't have that expectation that the other person is perfect, and be willing to, get to know the person and be patient with that person, because that's what's going to make a relationship work. Evaluate yourself on a day-to-day. Have those difficult conversations with your partner along the way. I think that's very important, and that's what me and my husband do all the time. We always call each other out on our mistakes, on things we don't like, especially at the beginning of marriage. I think the first year of marriage was very hard, very challenging, and we just helped each other grow and improve. And we still have a lot to do, but recognizing those things and recognizing that may be a possibility is very important. But don't make a commitment without, having those conversations and being vulnerable, because in a relationship, in a marriage, I'm sure that there's moments where you become vulnerable, right? And you want to make sure that when that happens, you are in a safe space. So you want to experience that. You want to see that. Yes, you are taking a risk because some stuff that you put out there, that it might not work out with that person, and that person might have that secret and carry it along. Some people may judge other people, and I didn't want that. I wanted the person to like me for who I am, to respect my family for their experiences, not judge people in my life. We talked about, levels of religion, right? I really wanted someone who respected any level of religion, whether someone is religious or not either, right? Because that tells me who they are as a person. And it tells me also how they will be with our children. For me, that was very important. It's a work in progress, and just keeping that in mind, and accepting the person with all their faults and, good and bad, and taking day by day. And I think, again, we come back to communication. Communication is key. Talk about it. Talk about, what's annoying you that day, what they did that may have bugged you. And I think the way you communicate with each other at the beginning will determine how you do that in your marriage as well.
When we're looking for a partner and spouse, we want compatibility. We want to make sure that our personalities are good for each other, that communication is there. What about physical attractiveness? What do you have to say about that?
I think physical attractiveness is important, to consider. The physique is, for me at least, was their height. But for me, it wasn't so big because I'm short. So all men were taller than me, right? For me, that's it. I don't think physical attractiveness should take a huge part on that list. If you have a list, I think it's important. If, some guys propose and, you don't find them attractive, then don't accept. You don't need to pursue that if you don't want to. You don't have to. Don't tell them that's the reason, because that hurts. Be nice. Be nice about it. For me, it was important that the person took care of his body. What I mean by that is that he was exercising. He cares about his health. He eats well. Health is important to me because I have parents who have diabetes, and I have a history of that. To me, health is very important. As long as the other person takes that seriously, that was important for me. And that will affect what I cook, right? And what we buy, and how we raise our children, right? So all of that, for me was very important. When you talk about physical attractiveness, talk about all these things. Your health, how you want your life to be. The whole purpose is I want to grow old with you, and I want to have a long life with you. That's one part of physical attractiveness.
To wrap up the conversation, whether it's we're basing this on for women, Muslim women specifically, thinking about their careers, thinking about marriage. What piece of advice do you want to leave people with?
Don't be afraid to be you. Don't be submissive to what everyone else wants for you. Know what you want. And if you still don't know, you're still young, take the time. Take your time to learn about yourself, grow, teach yourself different skills. Enjoy it. Enjoy that time of your life. You get married, life changes. So know your weaknesses, work on those weaknesses. Take your time. You're not in a rush. When the right person comes, they'll come. And when you're ready, you will accept, and you'll have, inshallah, a happy life together.
And never settle.
Yeah.
Thank you.